It's easy for money to quietly leak out of your wallet every month without you noticing. And our sponsor, Rocket Money, is the app that makes it clearer exactly where your money is going. Rocket Money puts all your expenses in one place. It includes subscriptions you may have forgotten you're even paying for, and it helps you take action on the ones you don't want anymore. Rocket Money has saved users over $2.5 billion, including $880 million in canceled subscriptions alone. Their 10 million members save up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. Go to rocketmoney.com/Pakman. The link is in the description. A bombshell today, a handwritten letter from Jeffrey Epstein claiming that the sitting president, then Donald Trump, shares his love of young, nubile girls. The letter existed. We now know what it says, and it points right at Donald Trump. We also have new DOJ documents revealing that Donald Trump flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet with only Epstein and an unnamed 20-year-old woman, contradicting years of denials and downplaying. And as the files leak, Donald Trump's own Justice Department is in full damage control mode, releasing documents while saying, don't believe what's in a lot of these documents. Meanwhile, the New York Times, as the enemy of the people, is back in focus with the president, lies about inflation, saying we really need to take Greenland from Denmark, and, by the way, illegal oil seizures and the scam that is the $1,776 Warrior dividend. That is only some of what we are talking about today. A newly surfaced letter attributed to Jeffrey Epstein is detonating like a bomb across the Epstein files for one very simple reason, which is that it explicitly and specifically drags the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, right into the middle of this scandal. It is Epstein's own words written just days before his death about sexual interest in young women. The handwritten letter is addressed, this is just wild, to Larry Nassar. Now, if that name rings a bell, Larry Nassar is the former USA gymnastics doctor who was convicted of sexually abusing hundreds of girls. This letter was released this week as part of this massive dump of Epstein files. It's labeled Data Set 8, and it claims that our president, then Trump, shares our love of young, nubile girls. This is vomitous, disgusting stuff. Here is what the letter says in full, and we are putting the letter up on the screen, written by Jeffrey Epstein. Dear LN, LN meaning Larry Nassar, as you know by now, I have taken the short route home. Good luck. We shared one thing, our love and caring for young ladies at the hope they'd reach their full potential. Our president, at the time this was written, that was Trump. Our president shares our love of young, nubile girls. When a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab snatch, whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system. Life is unfair. Yours, J. Epstein. Now, of course, the letter does not name Trump by name, but the context matters because Epstein wrote this in August of 2019. Trump was president in August of 2019. Epstein and Trump, of course, by then had this long, well-documented social relationship that stretched back years. And the phrasing, our president, is not exactly ambiguous. Now, what makes this particularly explosive is that the existence of this letter had been reported on. We just didn't know the contents of the letter. You go back to June of 2023, CNN reported that prison documents showed Epstein had attempted to contact Larry Nassar shortly before Epstein's death. And that reporting referenced a letter. The contents weren't made public at the time. Now, at the time, there was no way to evaluate. Well, what did Epstein actually write? Is it significant? Who does it reference? The CNN article at the time was titled Prison Documents Reveal. Jeffrey Epstein tried to reach out to Larry Nassar, gymnastics coach, convicted of sexual abuse. Now we know exactly what was in it. And that means that the story and the letter corroborate each other. The letter corroborates that the story was true. The story is a reminder that this is a letter we already believed the existence of, and now we have the details. Now, the Department of Justice claims that it's committed to transparency. But once again, the rollout of all of this tells a very different story. Because on the one hand, the Trump administration released thousands of Epstein-related pages after Trump signed this law mandating full disclosure. But even then, it was a partial release, as we talked about yesterday. It was a heavily redacted release. It was a chaotic release. Documents appeared and then disappeared and then reappeared. Different file numbers, different explanations from Pam Bondi or Deputy AG Todd Blanche. At one point, this letter that I just showed you disappeared from the online archive of the Department of Justice, and then it was reposted under a different identifier. No explanation. Why did that happen? We have no idea. Now, we're going to get into the DOJ's panicked attempts to cover up the shrapnel exploding from the Epstein bomb, but the DOJ has taken an extraordinarily bizarre measure, which is to preemptively discredit the contents, issuing this vague warning that in the interest of transparency, we released all of this stuff, but a lot of it is untrue. Some of it is uncertifiable. You've got to be careful about what you believe. It's really another version of Donald Trump's first term claim that, or not claim, suggestion to his followers. You shouldn't believe what you are hearing and seeing. You should only believe what I tell you. That was spoken like a true authoritarian in Donald Trump's first term. And to kind of add to the gravity of all of this, the FBI reportedly submitted this letter for handwriting analysis after it was found returned to sender in the jail mail system weeks after Epstein died. And the public has not been told whether the analysis has confirmed Epstein as the author, but the government released it anyway, and it is being treated as part of the official record. So if we zoom out, and we're going to get into what's going on with the jet travel as well, which is just crazy. The big picture is that Trump has denied knowledge of Epstein's crimes. He has said their friendship ended a long time ago. I kicked him out. And then every single one of these claims is rebutted, contradicted, or debunked by documents that are subsequently released. Now, at the same time, Trump built political capital by fueling conspiracy theories about Epstein's connections to others, primarily to Democrats. That's really what Trump has tried to kind of deflect attention towards. But as the files start to emerge, maybe the most disturbing elements or language or documents do refer either directly or indirectly to Donald Trump. This is not coming from third parties, or it's not coming in the form of hearsay. These are Epstein's own words. Our president shares our love for young, nubile girls. So it's Epstein's words pointed directly at Donald Trump, and Trump is in full panic mode. So later in the show, I'll talk to you about the DOJ cover-up attempts. Later in the show, I'll talk to you about Trump's freak out and meltdown. But we do have to talk about this extraordinary revelation regarding a flight on Epstein's jet. Another newly released Justice Department document includes a claim that Donald Trump flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet in the 1990s on a flight where the only other listed passenger other than Trump and Epstein was a then 20-year-old woman. The allegation appears in a 2020 email from a senior federal prosecutor at the Southern District of New York. It surfaced in this latest document dump related to the Epstein files. And according to this email, which we're going to look at in a moment, flight records show Trump traveled on Epstein's plane many more times than previously reported, including during the period that prosecutors were specifically looking at to say who needs to be charged here, what exactly do we need to charge Ghislaine Maxwell with. And there is a 1993 flight that is particularly notable. The email says the passenger manifest lists 3 people: Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and an as of now unnamed 20-year-old woman. Now, on other flights, the record suggests that women who later would have been potential witnesses in the Ghislaine Maxwell case were also on board the plane. Now, to be clear, and if nothing else, I've been extremely cautious here. The documents do not state that the 20-year-old that Trump flew with was the victim of a crime. And being named in an Epstein-related file does not itself establish criminal wrongdoing. I've made that clear just about every time we talk about this. But we have to acknowledge that this disclosure does directly contradict years of Trump minimizing his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He flew alone with Epstein and a 20-year-old. That is not, I bumped into him and 150 other people at a fundraising event. And the context really matters here because Maxwell was later convicted after the death of Jeffrey Epstein and sentenced to 20 years in prison for helping to recruit and abuse underage girls. A 20-year-old is not underage, but it is a very young woman flying alone with Trump and Epstein. What would be the circumstances of that is very weird. Now, it could completely be the case that even if this 20-year-old was subsequently a victim, which we do not have the evidence to say right now, that this 20-year-old was victimized only by Epstein and not Donald Trump. So to be clear, I am not alleging that this 20-year-old was a victim at all or a victim of Trump. But Trump flying alone with her and Epstein suggests a much closer relationship than Trump has acknowledged. Now, throughout his campaigns and his presidency, Trump has repeatedly vowed, we're going to release all of it, until it started to look like something he might be able to do. And then he started kind of stepping back, minimizing the importance of the files, minimizing his relationship with Epstein. And then as the files have started to come out, we see that that important through line that Trump has claimed seems not to be true. Now, we have a letter from DOJ emails from 2020 that are alerting unknown redacted recipients that Trump actually flew on Epstein's plane many more times than we are aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. Now, we're going to put the email up here. We don't know who sent this. We don't know who it was sent to. But why are these individuals being alerted and why are names being redacted? The letter reads, for your situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported or that we were aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. In particular, he is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 93 and 96, including at least 4 flights on which Maxwell was also present. Remember that Trump has previously been asked about Ghislaine Maxwell and basically acted like he doesn't know her and he wishes her well. Remember that infamous moment? I don't really know anything about her, but I wish her well. We have records that Trump was on at least 4 flights with Ghislaine Maxwell. Private planes, not like a 747 where Trump might have been in the first row and Ghislaine was in the 50th row. No. Epstein's private plane. The email continues. He is listed as having traveled with, among others, and at various times, Marla Maples, his daughter Tiffany, and his son Eric. On one flight in 93, he and Epstein are the only 2 listed passengers. On another, the only 3 passengers are Epstein, Trump, and then 20-year-old, name redacted. On 2 other flights, 2 of the passengers, respectively, were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. We've just finished reviewing the full records, more than 100 pages of very small script, and didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. Who is this being sent to? Who is being notified about this? And remember, Trump barely knew Epstein, but he once flew on the plane with just Epstein and a 20-year-old, and he once flew on the plane with just Epstein. Now, the rhetoric that we have been hearing from the right on this issue has fueled a lot of conspiracy theories within the MAGA base, and it has positioned Trump as a champion of transparency. Trump got back into office. That commitment to transparency certainly diminished. And after Trump signed a law mandating the release of the remaining Epstein-related documents, his own Justice Department has worked actively and proactively to cover up a bunch of this stuff. There has been a sharp reversal here. Now, all along, I have urged caution, and I've said, if and until we have evidence that Donald Trump victimized someone, committed a crime, etc., we should not say that he did. But what we can say now is that Trump has been extraordinarily dishonest in terms of his relationship and ties to Jeffrey Epstein. It was more than just we would see each other in Florida. It was more than just he was a member of my club, but I kicked him out when I found out he was a creep, which, by the way, is untrue. This really deepens our skepticism of Trump as an innocent bystander. And at minimum, these newly released flight records raise real questions about why Trump has never cleanly answered. Have you flown with Epstein? How often? How many times? Who else was present? Why are your ties to Epstein way more extensive than you've admitted for years? And so the most politically explosive revelations thus far, and we are still getting more of them, they aren't about secret enemies, strange bedfellows, hidden lists. It's about Trump's direct relationship with Epstein. The DOJ has launched damage control. Trump is melting down on Truth Social. All of that is coming up. We'll also have more of this on my daily newsletter, which I hope you'll sign up for. If I'm honest, I would love it if you signed up for it. And you can do that at substack.davidpakman.com. A lot of people think they have a handle on their finances. Then they look at the numbers and realize something's not adding up. And that is where our sponsor, Rocket Money, comes in. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that shows you the full financial picture in one place: spending, subscriptions, upcoming bills, paydays, so things don't slip through the cracks. One thing I like is how clear the dashboard is. You can see where your money's going. You can spot subscriptions you forgot about. And if there's one you don't want anymore, Rocket Money will help you cancel it with just a few taps. You can also set up custom budgets based on past spending, and it just makes it easier to stay on track. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you by scanning for savings opportunities and talking to customer service on your behalf. Rocket Money has saved users over $2.5 billion, including over $880 million in canceled subscriptions alone. Each of their 10 million members saves up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster. Go to rocketmoney.com/Pakman. The link is in the description. Lest anyone be confused, the David Pakman Show is primarily made possible by our audience through the direct support of the membership program. I want to say a huge thank you today to our two newest members. Those are Wesley McCune and Joseph Johnson, who signed up at joinpakman.com. We do an extra show every day for our members. We also provide commercial-free audio and video feeds of the show. It's more show, commercial-free show, earlier show than we release it publicly. I invite you to sign up at joinpakman.com. Memberships make great gifts. You can check that this is a gift box when you sign up and then enter the recipient of the gift. And also check out the newly relaunched merch store at store.davidpakman.com. The Obama t-shirt continues to be the top selling item. I ordered one for myself. I'll wear it on an upcoming show if people would like, and if that would be offensive, then I won't. All right, store.davidpakman.com. As the Epstein files continue to leak into public view, the Trump Justice Department is starting their cover-up disinformation campaign. They are now releasing documents begrudgingly, but simultaneously telling you, you might not want to believe the contents of these documents. In a statement posted to the former Twitter platform now known as X, the DOJ announced, listen, we're being transparent. We're releasing all the stuff. We're doing all of it. But a lot of these documents contain claims that are untrue or sensationalist, and you may not want to believe it. They posted this nasty excretion to X, which says, quote, the Department of Justice has officially released nearly 30,000 more pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. And if they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. Nevertheless, out of our commitment to the law and transparency, the DOJ is releasing these documents with the legally required protections for Epstein's victims. So the core message here is, it's evil genius in a way. We are being transparent, but also don't take any of these documents too seriously. We tried not to release the documents forever, which suggested they were very serious. But now that we have started to release them and some are leaking, don't take them very seriously. Don't believe the subject matter, because if they were real, if this stuff really mattered, you would have heard about it already. It would have been used. It would have been weaponized against Donald Trump already. This is not a statement you would expect from an enforcement of law agency. It is a sort of statement you would expect from a propaganda mouthpiece, a press secretary, a communications person, or that sort of thing. And I think that if you examine the claims, they really don't stand up. I mean, the DOJ is saying if the allegations had credibility, they would have already been weaponized against Donald Trump before. That doesn't make sense on its face. A lot of this material was never public. Trump spent years obstructing, delaying, and reshaping the release of the Epstein documents. And it's the same DOJ now saying this is fake that has controlled what gets released, redacted, and slow walked for a period of years. So you don't get to bury documents for years and then argue that they're actually meaningless and someone would have already used them politically if they were real. You were the one making it impossible to figure out what was in the documents. And what's especially telling, I believe, is the framing. The DOJ didn't say, here are the documents, evaluate them for yourselves. Here are documents, but we have not independently vetted the underlying truth of any particular document. It doesn't say some of the claims in these documents are disputed. It doesn't even say these allegations were investigated and found to be unsubstantiated. They simply go, it's a political defense. Okay, the president would have already suffered if these documents represented accurate claims or whatever. That should raise major alarms. Now, then there's the hypocrisy. Because notice who the DOJ did not rush to defend. Bill Clinton appears throughout the Epstein files. And Clinton's response has been really simple and consistent, which is release anything. Release all of it. Release everything with no caveats. Through his spokesperson, Bill Clinton put out a statement yesterday. So there was no preemptive denial issued through the Justice Department. No statement saying there are claims about Bill Clinton that are sensationalist. They just put it out there. Trump is, by the way, doing the opposite. Clinton goes, release it all. I have nothing to hide. I knew the guy, but I have nothing to hide. Didn't do anything wrong. Trump does the opposite. Trump campaigned for years on releasing the Epstein files, fed his base these dark hints about client lists and Democratic abusers and all of this stuff. And then once he's back in office, it's very clear that he doesn't want this stuff released. And they release a little bit, heavily redacted, with statements insisting that the most damaging claims about him now are false. And so we are supposed to believe this is about protecting victims, justice, etc. But the redactions go way beyond just protecting the identities of victims. There are passages that have been removed, names, and that do not appear to be those of victims. If anything, they might be of perpetrators. This is not confident transparency if you are the administration. So there is a panic here that is palpable, because if these files were harmless to Trump, you wouldn't need to put out a warning shot like this. You wouldn't be compelled to tell the public in advance, the allegations about the president are bogus. And maybe the most important point is that the DOJ has not issued a similar blanket denial about anybody else. Not about Clinton or any of the other powerful associates of Jeffrey Epstein. Trump is the only person getting the institutional shield of some of the claims in these documents are not true, which brings us to the bigger picture before we go to Trump's meltdown. The Epstein files are not a single smoking gun. They are a pattern. Flight records, emails, letters, subpoenas. One of the revelations in the pattern, aside from any specific fact, is Trump and Epstein spent a bunch of time together, sometimes just the two of them, on one flight with one 20-year-old woman. That broader pattern directly contradicts how Trump has tried to sort of whitewash his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And that is not about any particular document's truth or falsity. Trump wanted to run on Epstein transparency. He wanted to weaponize Epstein against his enemies. The spotlight is now on him. And all of a sudden, the documents are unreliable, they're misleading, they're dangerous to release. except they're kind of released anyway, sort of, except redacted, but then some of them are leaking and there's warnings and excuses. This is the furthest thing from transparency. And to Donald Trump, it doesn't really matter because it is all wildly triggering him. Donald Trump suffered a total meltdown as the Epstein leaks are becoming extraordinarily damaging. He had an overnight freak out, including nearly 1 a.m. posts to Truth Social again. This is what desperation looks like. This is not quiet confidence. This is not quiet confidence that you are going to be vindicated by the release of the Epstein files. This is not quiet confidence that the Supreme Court is going to help you pull off the disasters you're trying to pull off. I'll explain because there's a lot of substance here. Posted close to 1 a.m. early this morning, Donald Trump said on Truth Social, quote, "The failing New York Times and their lies and purposeful misrepresentations is a serious threat to the national security of our nation. Their radical left, unhinged behavior, writing fake articles and opinions in a never-ending way, must be dealt with and stopped. They are a true enemy of the people. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump." Authoritarian language. Enemy of the people, we have been desensitized to. I know it's hard to feel viscerally the authoritarian rage that is implicit in that statement. But enemy of the people is a phrase with a very specific history. It is how strongmen and dictators justify oppression. It is how you signal, we don't see journalists as mere critics, we see them as enemies to be taken out. And notice what's missing. Trump is attacking the New York Times, but he has no specific article that he cites. That's a problem. He has no factual dispute that he brings up. Well, the New York Times says X, and X isn't true. Y is actually true. There's no correction. And then up again in the morning with it again, where Trump says, quote, "The tariffs are responsible for the great USA economic numbers just announced, and they will only get better. Also, no inflation and great national security. Pray for the U.S. Supreme Court." Pure gaslighting. Tariffs do not reduce inflation. They cause it. They raise prices. That is not an ideological claim from me. It is basic economics. Tariffs are taxes on imports. The cost of those tariffs gets passed along to consumers. Prices go up. Claiming that tariffs caused great economic numbers. And by the way, we just got a GDP number for Q3, up 4.3%. That is a good number. We're going to delve into the internals of it tomorrow. But saying that tariffs did that? No. Second, no inflation is a lie. Even Trump's administration, when you actually pin them down in interviews, Kevin Hassett, Scott Bessent, and others, they don't claim inflation is zero. They claim it's gone down. Even that's not true. It's basically been the same for 2.5 years. But that line, no inflation, is not a line meant to influence people who are informed. Because anyone who's informed knows inflation's been bouncing between 2.5 and 3, meaning prices have been going up. The idea is create an alternate reality for loyalists of this president. And third, the mention of the Supreme Court. And this is really a tell. Pray for the Supreme Court is not a patriotic concern from the president. It's pressure. That is a signal to his audience that the court is expected to protect Trump on the tariffs. They're not going to rule these tariffs are actually unconstitutional. And if the Supreme Court were to come back and say, you know what, the tariffs are unconstitutional, then something has gone wrong. And then you need to believe that Trump is the one who's right, not the 9 justices of the Supreme Court. Now, here's a bonus from a couple days earlier, where Trump is also now this kind of like down is up. The Ministry of Peace is actually the Ministry of War, 1984 type stuff. Trump says inflation being up is good. Trump posting, quote, "The only reason our unemployment ticked up to 4.5% is because we are reducing the government workforce by numbers that have never been seen before. 100% of our new jobs are in the private sector. I could reduce unemployment to 2% overnight by just hiring people into the federal government, even though those jobs are not necessary. I wish the fake news would report the 4.5% correctly. What I am doing is the only way to make America great again." So now unemployment is good. Higher unemployment is a sign of strength. And Trump is claiming unemployment is only up because I slashed government jobs. Every new job is in the private sector. And I could just hire everybody back into the federal government and get unemployment down to 2%. Classic Trump logic. If the numbers are good, he takes full credit. If the numbers are bad, he says they're secretly good if you only understand them. If they're still bad, it's because Trump is restraining himself from being even more amazing, which he could do any day that he wants. But notice the quiet admission that is implicit in what he's saying about unemployment. Trump is acknowledging government jobs do lower unemployment. He has spent years pretending that public sector employment doesn't really count for anything. We've been saying, how doesn't it count? It's a person who is employed. They are earning a salary, which they spend in their community, meaning it supports businesses that are depending on that person's income. But now, all of a sudden, instead of not counting, it does count. So big picture, what is Trump thinking about? What are the last 12 to 16 hours of what's going on in Trump's head as the Epstein situation devolves and explodes? Number one, he's furious with the press, even though he won't tell us exactly what the New York Times got wrong. Number two, denial about the state of the economy. And number three, this outrageous retroactive spin on bad data in this economy. Are people falling for it? Sadly, the answer is a lot of them are, but many are not. And this is why Trump's approval on the economy has now dipped below that of Democrats in some polls, something you don't typically see. In 2025, Christian nationalism is no longer fringe. It is in policy, it is on school boards, it's in the courts. And it is not just a threat to atheists or non-believers. It is a threat to pluralism, equality, and even democracy itself. And this is why I support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They're one of our sponsors. They have been fortifying the wall between church and state since 1978. Their work is critical, whether it's legal action against unconstitutional government prayer or stopping religious indoctrination in public schools or defending the rights of non-religious Americans. If you want to do something meaningful before the year ends, something that is aligned with your values, join the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Your support helps keep religion out of government and reason in the public square. Or you can gift a membership in someone else's name as a holiday gift. Visit ffrf.us/winter25 or text my first name, David, to 511-511 before December 31st. This isn't about being against religion. It's about defending the freedom not to be told how or whether to believe by the government. The link is in the description. Text fees may apply. Donald Trump held a sort of impromptu press conference yesterday at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. His brain seemed to turn to mush when the topic of Jeffrey Epstein came up, but we're going to get to that in a moment. I want to start with Donald Trump simply saying, I think I have to steal a country for national security. The winner of the FIFA Peace Prize says, we need Greenland. And Trump seemingly reinvigorated in his thirst to take Greenland from Denmark. Here he is explaining that it is for national security reasons that we got to have it. We've got to have Denmark.
But he felt very strongly we need it for we need Greenland for national security, not for minerals. We have so many sites for minerals and oil and everything. We have more oil than any other country in the world. We need Greenland for national security. And if you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down.
By the way, Marco Rubio's shifting body language in the background tells you a lot about what he thinks of this.
The coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need it for national security. We have to have it. And he wanted to lead the charge. So we're making him, Marco, today, a special envoy to Greenland.
That's right. And as we covered yesterday on the bonus show, Donald Trump picking a special envoy to Greenland who believes that Greenland should actually become part of the United States. Trump continuing on this issue. And as is often the case with Trump, he can't avoid getting into factually untrue statements as to whatever he's talking about.
Comes through Mexico.
Thank you, sir. You've named Governor Landry to be new special envoy to Greenland.
Yeah.
How do you? What do you see that role entailing? And is it still your intention that Greenland become part of the U.S.?
He viewed Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase. He said, I'm governor of Louisiana. And he said, I didn't call him, he called me. He's very proactive. He's a great guy. He's a deal guy. He's a deal maker type guy. And we need it for national protection. We need Greenland for national protection. They have a very small population. And I don't know, they say Denmark, but Denmark has spent no money. They have no military protection. If they say that Denmark was there 300 years ago or something with a boat, well, we were there with boats too, I'm sure.
Actually, there is no record whatsoever of U.S. People from the United States visiting Greenland by boat 300 years ago. And in fact, they wouldn't even really have been Americans then because the U.S. didn't exist until 1776. So if you go back to the 18th century, Danes went to Greenland, Norwegians, other Europeans, but Americans did not go to Greenland 300 years ago. There were no Americans 300 years ago, in a sense.
So we'll come through Mexico.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, and one other thing before we move on. Trump claiming that Denmark has no military protection for Greenland. That's just completely untrue. The reality is that Denmark provides aid, Denmark provides defense, and has had continuous presence in Greenland. So it's all just made up. But Trump wants Greenland. That's the point. The Peace Prize winner of FIFA wants Greenland. Check this out. Donald Trump says we're going to hire robots and employ artificial things. I don't think he knows what he's talking
You
about.
can have robots, but you're going to have to get somebody to start those robots, and you're going to have to improve the robots. But we're going to have robotic factories plus
Elements of robots.
manpower. So we're going to have enough. We're going to need the help of robots and other forms of I guess you could say employment. We're going to be employing a lot of artificial things, but the beauty is we're going to have more jobs than we've ever had.
We're going to be employing a lot of artificial things. He has no idea what artificial intelligence is. He has no idea how it works. He doesn't know what crypto is or how it works. He doesn't know anything about technology or robotics. But here's my prediction. Knowing nothing about those things is not going to prevent him from trying to personally benefit from it, nor from talking about it. He'll keep talking and talking and talking. The arithmetic confusion is back. Trump doesn't feel that reducing the price of something 600% is enough. Forget about the mathematical impossibility. Trump now is talking about reducing prices even 3,000%. He encourages the audience to do their own math. I'm trying.
But instead of talking about the battleships or instead of talking about most favored nations drugs, we're bringing down drug prices like at a level that has never even been thought of, by thousands. Think of it, by 1,000%, by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400% in some cases. A drug that sells for $10 in London is costing $130 in New York. We're bringing it down to $20, and they're going to go up to 20. So they're going from 10 to 20, which is a doubling. It's a doubling. That's a lot. But
it's Dublin, Ireland.
It's a doubling. But we're going down to 20. So we're going down, if you can do your own math, but it's 2,000%, 3,000%.
Well, you know, I admit I am trying to do my own math on this, and I am really struggling. I believe that there should be an opportunity to hand Trump a calculator, maybe one of my favorite, my TI-83 back from Calc 2, and say, show me the math. Explain 3,000%. And what we've seen is that when there is really an opportunity to challenge them on this, like last week when Fox host John Roberts challenged Howard Lutnick about the numbers, it becomes very clear that it's all just totally fabricated. Makes no sense whatsoever. Trump asked what happens with the seized oil from the Venezuelan tanker. Trump's answer alludes to criminality. I believe what Trump says he is going to do is against the law.
Speaking of Venezuela, oil, what are we going to do with the oil that we have?
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it. We're keeping it.
Where's it going? Are we going to sell it or put it in the strategic
Maybe
oil
we'll sell
reserve?
it. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll use it in the strategic reserves. We're keeping it. We're keeping the ships also. Yeah.
I think that that's against the law. Put aside for a second that it might casually count as piracy. Ignore that little detail for a second. The U.S. can only lawfully seize oil under really narrow circumstances if you are enforcing sanctions, meaning that there's been a court proceeding and there is forfeited oil you could then seize it. That is not what has taken place. You could seize oil if there has been a declared war and you have obtained it. Of course, there is no declared war against Venezuela. And if there is a judicial process for criminal forfeiture or even customs forfeiture, if they tried to sneak the oil into the U.S. illegally, customs seizes it, there's a forfeiture that's legally adjudicated, then you could say, well, we're now going to keep the oil. There is no general presidential power to just take another country's oil because the U.S. has military or naval control in the area or because you have seized a tanker. He's alluding to crimes, and he says it on live TV, and he doesn't give a damn. All right, in Palm Beach, Florida, Donald Trump asked a number of questions about Jeffrey Epstein, and you can see that his brain is completely turned to mush. It's rotten mayonnaise. I don't know if it's even the real mayo with the egg. It might be one that they don't even use egg. It's just canola oil. Can you imagine something more pathetic? It's not even real mayo up there in his brain. He can't stay on track. And Trump upset that he is still being asked questions about Epstein. Well, I hate to tell you, now that you're showing up in the flight logs, there are going to be a lot of questions, sir.
Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents.
He does not want to talk about this anymore. Trump would rather never hear the name Jeffrey Epstein again, but I've got news for him. We're getting the documents slowly but surely. There's also news that some of the redactions were done in such an unsophisticated way that you can just copy paste the text into Word and the unredacted text comes up. So we are going to learn a lot here. Trump tries to minimize the entire thing just by going, everybody was friends with this guy. But was everybody flying alone with him on his private plane, as we have now learned that Donald Trump did?
Thank you, Mr. President. Were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their...
By the way, notice that this is a total, softball for Trump. Bill Clinton's in the pictures.
By what?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him.
Right.
I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me, too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers. And Bill Clinton was a friend of his, but everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. And as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. This is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And All
right, anyway, I'm not going to keep subjecting you indefinitely to this, but the point is Trump's rambling. He doesn't like any of this. And notice, by the way, that Trump is now angry about some of the stuff coming out, but he signed the bill into law. Like it's all completely mush in his brain and conflicting motivations and explanations. And Trump even saying there are pictures coming out that don't really have anything to do with Epstein. It's just people who were like at a party and you're ruining the reputations of people. And I think Trump is sort of saying here that he's going to take people down with him. It's very cryptic the way Trump talks about this. You can tell he doesn't like it. You can tell he's furious, but I don't really know what he's getting at here.
A lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party. And you ruin the reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success.
I don't know really the point Trump's making, other than maybe he wishes the only discussions were about the quote, tremendous success that he's having. On Epstein Island questions, Trump says he never went there. I don't know if I believe that, because we now have flight records that Trump was on Epstein's plane just with Epstein. Trump was on Epstein's plane with only Epstein and a 20-year-old? Do we really believe that at no point Trump went to the island? I mean, maybe he didn't, maybe he did. I just don't know.
Less than $2 in some states, $1.99, $1.97, $1.95 a gallon. $1.95. Think of that. A gallon. Nobody ever thought they'd see that. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about Epstein. And the problem is a lot of Democrats are being caught up in the web, like Larry Summers. Larry Summers was the head of Harvard. He's now been forced to resign from every board he's on, and he was thrown off the Harvard board. Now, he was, he
like
was
a
at
dog.
Epstein's Island a lot. I wasn't. I never went there, by the way.
No.
But fortunately, it's nice. But I never went there. But a lot of people did go there.
Yeah. And then finally, Trump going back to this whole, I threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, which we've learned is not exactly what happened.
Everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. And as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. This is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place in...
Currently, this place in which we are, this is Mar-a-Lago.
Hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here. He'd come here. We actually threw.
Now, of course, we've learned that Trump's recollection of this or retelling of it is very much untrue. Donald Trump argued that when he found out that Epstein was a creep, he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. It turns out that that's not true. Trump allowed Epstein to remain a member of Mar-a-Lago long after it was revealed that he was a creep. Trump ultimately had a falling out with Epstein because it turned out that Epstein was stealing spa workers from Trump's Mar-a-Lago spa, young girls, to go and work for Epstein. And that's actually what pissed Trump off much later than he found out Epstein was a creep. So every single one of these stories has some spin on it to make it sound like Trump is this innocent victim here, when he very much appears certainly not to be innocent in the sense of he knew what Epstein was up to. Even if Trump didn't do anything himself, he absolutely knew what Epstein was up to and only had a problem when it started to annoy him, like, for example, taking young workers from his spa. Trump's brain turning to mush in real time, and he is desperate for this Epstein thing to go away. I don't think it's going away. A lot of people think identity theft is something that only happens when someone hacks into your account, but the truth is that it usually starts with your personal information being posted online by data brokers where anybody can find it. Our sponsor, Incogni, is a service that helps protect your privacy by forcing the data brokers to delete your information. This includes your name, address, phone number, even sensitive things like property records or your political affiliation. And now with their custom removals feature included in the unlimited plan, you're not limited to just the list of 250 plus brokers they work with by default. If you find any site exposing any of your private information, even one they've never seen before, you can send a link and Incogni's team will work to get that removed. This is serious protection for you and your family against identity theft, against fraud, doxing, harassment, and Incogni's data removal process is the only one independently verified by Deloitte. Get 60% off an annual plan when you visit incogni.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. The link is in the description. The Department of Justice briefly posted a video purporting to be the jailhouse video of Jeffrey Epstein taking his own life. Now, I'm going to tell everybody up front, sort of like a reverse trigger warning of sorts. The video is not real. This is a fake video, and we're not going to put up actual video of that because as far as we know at this moment, that video still doesn't exist. So let me explain what went on. In the Epstein files, there's this short video that appeared to be dated on the day that Epstein was found dead. And it's time-stamped just a couple of hours before he was found dead. And it has J. Epstein on it in the lower right. This is a fake video, okay? And so I'm going to play just 11 seconds. It's not a real video. This is not purported. This doesn't actually show anybody dying or anything like that, okay? Now, when this first came out, a lot of the reaction was, wait a second, we were told by the DOJ that there was no camera in his cell. We were told that the cameras didn't quite work right at the moment at which this took place. You know, all these different things. But the point was There is no video. So, of course, when this came out, there was an initial reaction of, oh my God, they covered up the fact that there is such a video and we have the video. The video is not real. Now, what is, I don't know if you would say interesting or what, is that shortly after the video came out, it was subsequently removed. And so if you go to the URL on the Department of Justice website that used to have this video, you now get a page not found message. And we were told that this didn't exist, and so it didn't really make sense. But one of the interesting things is that the video is referenced in an email. There's an email dated March 13th, 2021. And it says, "Dear investigators, came across a purported video of Epstein's suicide leaked by anonymous source. I attached it, but if your email strips it, you can download it here." Is this real? There is another version, better quality, less choppy. I have been documenting a substantial cover-up of a suicide scandal at FDC Miami by both the Bureau of Prisons and also high-level DOJ officials. So I find it to be a joke that the DOJ is bringing charges in this SDNY case concerning the Epstein suicide, while simultaneously acting to illegally cover up misconduct in other similar cases. Anyway, et cetera, et cetera. So the context here is presumably an investigator of some kind or someone involved with the justice system saying, hey, there's this video. It purports to be a video of Jeffrey Epstein taking his life, but we have now learned that that is indeed not what this is. I even had an article that I was going to point to here. I should have had this ready, and I apologize that I didn't. Okay, DOJ included fake Epstein suicide video in latest release. This has a little bit more information. A short clip that appeared to show Jeffrey Epstein attempting to commit suicide in his prison cell was included in the new release by the DOJ. The clip is not genuine footage. It is a fake recreation that nonetheless fooled TMZ and others following the story. All right, so let me talk about the reports about this as real. Over the last 10 to 14 days, kind of longer, but it doesn't even really matter. Certainly within the context of the Epstein files, it's been over the last couple weeks. There have been a lot of posts, and many of them from people on the left. Okay, so this is not about like friendly fire civil war. It's just my side is not exempt from this. There have been a lot of posts with people, content creators, reporters, news outlets, it's everybody, stating confidently that images or videos are something that they are not. Now, the first we saw of this, I told everybody about, there were pictures that were part of the Epstein files in some loose sense that didn't depict any wrongdoing, and they were public images already. And I said, we've got to be careful with this stuff, because as soon as we start pointing to, a public picture of Bill Clinton with two women and their faces are redacted, and then you go and it's like, oh, that was a public event. It was two women who went up to Bill Clinton. Someone redacted and then is acting like this is a sign of Bill Clinton's wrongdoing, and it's nothing. We give the people around Trump and Trump himself the opportunity to say, these are not serious people. Look at what they're doing. They're doctoring stuff. They're claiming that public images are images of wrongdoing. So I said, we need to be really, really careful with this stuff. And similarly, I could have done more with this video earlier, this alleged, now we know is fake Epstein suicide video. And a lot of people did. This broke yesterday, early afternoon or something like that. But absent some confirmation that it is what it is, I was hesitant to do so. Now, this is not like I'm patting myself on the back and I never make mistakes. I sometimes do. But especially when the stakes are so high, I do want everybody, but this includes my side as well, to be really careful and judicious with what we're doing and what we are putting out. There is plenty of real stuff to go around that I don't think it's necessary to end up amplifying things that simply aren't real. I saw some people, also content creators, a couple of days ago, amplifying images that have nothing to do with the Epstein files. They are just images of Trump, but they're not even part of the Epstein files. And so I think we just got to be really careful. This video is not real. Why it was published and then removed, we don't know. There's really weird stuff certainly happening with the DOJ, but let's do the best we can to publish things that we actually definitively can say that's what this is. All right, listen, I mentioned last week as an aside that the money Trump is sending to the troops, the $1,776, is not coming from tariffs the way Trump said. It's actually coming from money already allocated to the troops. It's a scam. It's a grift. It's a con job. It's now becoming a bigger story. And so I want to go back to it and give you more detail and context. And this is probably one of the most cynical things that Trump has done in a very long time, and that says a lot. Trump announced a warrior dividend, $1,776 Christmas bonus for service members. It's a patriotic bonus. It's symbolism. And the implication was, and even the statement was, because of the tariff money, we can afford this. It turns out the money didn't come from the tariffs. The money came from reconciliation funds already approved for housing subsidies for members of the military. They are taking housing subsidy money and using it to give a $1,776 bonus. The money was supposed to help service members afford housing. Now let's back up. Here is Trump's announcement about this.
We are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military, and I say congratulations.
All right, so let's start with the core reality. There was no new money for troops. This is not extra money that is now going to the troops. Trump sent the troops their own money back, okay, as a bonus. Now, there is a catch here, and this is a big one. The housing allowance was not taxable. My understanding is that the bonus counts as wages and therefore is taxable. Okay. Now, I really did everything I could to make sure that this is accurate. And if it ends up being wrong, I will come back to you and I will say I was wrong about this. But I ran this by an accountant. We researched it as extensively as we could. My belief right now is that Trump took money that was supposed to be a tax-free way of helping service members with housing, turned it into a cash payout over which he got political capital, but now it will be taxable because it is no longer a subsidy for housing. That doesn't strike me as generosity, okay? That strikes me as a slight pay cut. Instead of tax-free money, you now get it as taxable money, reallocating money already in the defense budget, slapping a patriotic sticker on it by making it $1,776. And the Pentagon disperses it. And Trump has just simply renamed what this is. Renaming money doesn't change how it's paid for. Military pay comes from the defense budget. It doesn't come from tariffs. It doesn't come from trade wars. It doesn't come from, Trump's brain or his ego. If this were really about helping troops, the obvious question Trump doesn't want you asking is, why not fund it through defense appropriations? Why make regular Americans pay higher prices through tariffs, which are like a tax, pretend that it actually benefits the military by allowing you to give them a $1,776 bonus, and in reality, now they are paying taxes on a pool of money that previously was for non-taxable housing subsidies. If Trump truly believed that this money was subsidized, he could have proposed, let's raise the base pay for our service members. Let's increase the housing stipends. Let's expand family benefits, right? You could do real policy, but Trump chose a one-time gimmick that allowed him to, I guess, look good on TV, although to me, he looked pretty dumb. And it doesn't look so good on your pay stub when you're paying taxes on it. So that's the pattern. Trump is not fixing a system. He's just calling something a different name. He's not building new housing. He's not expanding allowances. He's not dealing with rising rent near some of the larger military bases. He's taking money that was already earmarked for housing and said, let's make it a taxable cash payment. And then that way it allows Trump to go on TV and go, I'm sending you money. Now, a lot of veterans recognize this. I saw posts from veterans saying, we don't want a warrior dividend, no matter what you call it. We want stable housing and predictable pay. And the long-term policy would have been so much more beneficial than something that disappears when the cameras are off and at the end of the day is just a reallocation. And the insult on top of this is that Trump stood there and suggested that tariffs are allowing us to do this, even though tariffs raise consumer prices for everybody and they've kept inflation elevated. I mean, Trump said he was going to bring it down. It hasn't come down. So we really shouldn't call this a warrior dividend. We shouldn't say that Trump's being generous. We shouldn't say that Trump's policies are paying for this. Trump reshuffled the budget and stuck his name on it and is ultimately giving the troops their own money back and taxing them for it. This is a scam, and it is yet another Trump con job. I hope more service members realize what's going on here. We've got a phenomenal bonus show for you today. We will talk about what's going on with human trafficking. We will talk about what's going on with wind, and we will talk about more than 50 lawmakers retiring next year. Why? I will explain all of it on the bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com.